you had mentioned yesterday about growth and what you see from November now, and you had mentioned like going through pain, discomfort, uncertainty. You get through that, it sort of tells you what are some of those things that you felt like were those stages or those things that you had to sort of get through.
Well, I'll give you a good analogy. Galen, when Galen became the point guard, there was really no expectations for the program because I didn't know how bad it was till I got here. I couldn't understand why they fired coaches. It made no sense to me. It was so unfair to them because nobody had done nothing to help them. I couldn't understand that. So it didn't matter because nobody cared, the apathy. And so Galen was in a good position. What was going to happen? We lose? Every 4 years you fired the coach because he lost. But I knew that we had to have a point guard that could play for me. Not just any point guard, a point guard that could play the way I wanted him to play. And so when Dejan came in, he played behind Dejan. He played either with or behind Galen for a year. Okay, now think about that. So the following year, was there any adjustment for Dejan? No. He'd already been through everything for a year, had played. First practice, first game, boom. And now think about Dejan's senior year. He's the most accomplished point guard we've had, by the way. It's not Galen. It's not Jamal. Dejan took us to the Final Four. It's not an individual sport. It's a team sport. So our most accomplished point guard was Dejan. He took us to the Final Four. His backup, way backup, was Jamal. Jamal got to see all his mistakes. Jamal got to go through his own trials and tribulations. And so the following year, ready to go. So now Jamal becomes a senior. At some point, it was going to stop. And so now we go and get Milos. So Milos is June through probably early December was his year of residency. Doctors have a year of residency, right, before they become practitioners. Well, he had to go through his residency. He wasn't a doctor yet. He was going through his residency. But I look back at November, and when I watch film with Milos, I don't always point out the things he did wrong. I show him what he did good, But a lot of ownership is your individual swagger. You can't go to a party and act like, your buddies let you in the back door. You gotta come through the front door and act like, this party's here because of me, I'm not slinking in the corner hoping somebody didn't ask me for an ID here. But he was kind of like that early. And our team was trying to go, and we're trying to wait for him to catch up. But that's why I never worried about it. We shouldn't have lost San Diego State. Probably shouldn't have lost Alabama. Could have beaten Auburn, but we lost all three. At the end of the day, I know this, but most media people don't, most fans don't. It didn't matter. I knew it at the time that it didn't matter. I'm glad we played those games. Do I wish we'd won them? Of course. But if you lose them, what are we talking about here? What impact does it have on us? None. So what conversations are we having? Based on what? I knew once we got to January, based on 36 teams I've coached, that we're going to be a lot better in January. But we got to go through some tough times. Last year's team was 13-0. I don't know what the record of most of the teams I've had. I don't remember. I know we've been 13-0 before, because one year 16-0, right? Or 15-0, whatever that was. So a lot of it is based on who you play. You say, well, our team has lost 3 games. Well, most teams, Connecticut lost 3 games in a row. So what? It didn't matter. They wish they'd have won one of them or 2 of them. We could have lost to Notre Dame as poorly as we played that night. But we also could have beat Alabama. We actually played good against Alabama. LJ had a really good look to end the game. Ball goes in, the game's over. And everybody looks at you totally different, right? Boy, I wouldn't have looked at us any different because whether we won or lost, we still needed to get a lot better. But now that we're into our third conference game, I think we're on a pretty good trajectory. We're not the same team we were in October or November. Our connectivity on defense is night and day. But it should be. We're 3 months in. It should not be there in November. Next November, Houston's basketball team is not going to be near as good as it's going to be in January. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, don't ever, if I don't teach you guys anything before I leave here, learn this. Don't worry about November wins and losses. Don't overreact to the wins and don't overreact to the losses. Because I'm telling you, they don't matter. They just don't. Don't draw conclusions on any player. Don't draw conclusions on the team because it doesn't matter. It's like yesterday's game. We were a hard matchup for BYU. That's a hard match. We're a hard matchup for them. Just like Auburn was a hard matchup for us. Alabama and Houston's a good matchup for both teams. Not a lot of difference in those two teams. But we're a team that's finding our bearings, but still developing. Like Mercy's minutes yesterday. If you noticed his minutes, he played a lot more mature. He didn't play like a 8 o'clock at night game on the back courts at Lakeview and in Valdosta, Georgia, in the AAU game, where you play give and go, give it to me and go to hell. That's the offense. That's kind of the offense he's used to running. Now he's starting to figure it out. And I told him, I said, pay attention to LJ. Watch how he plays. LJ plays a very mature game. Doesn't force things, even though he could. He usually makes the right play. I said, don't worry about Emmanuel. Emmanuel and I have a different understanding than I do with some of the other ones. But LJ's a good role model for Mercy. But the BYU team is that team's going to get a lot better. Those young kids they have are going to be really good players. But you got to go through this league, the ups and downs. Maybe we've been through it. This time last year, after 3 games, we were 1-2. So, as coaches, we just, at least I guess it goes with being an old dude. I just never worry about wins or losses too much.
Quentin Grimes was saying the other day that you don't penalize for mistakes. The way you coach is you just penalize it. You don't get the effort and the intensity, and that empowers players. Have you always been like that as a coach? Is that
yes.
Or does it develop over the years?
Yeah. Well, if we had a family reunion and you brought players from Montana Tech and Washington State, Oklahoma, Indiana, here, you put them in a room and huddle them up and said, write down what your memories are for playing, they'd all be very similar. Attitude and effort will take you a long way because those are really the only 2 things you can control in your life. But every kid's different. Quentin was a kid that I had to take defibrillators for his psyche. He needed to get more confident in himself. Milos was a little bit like that. He wasn't he didn't have the scars that Quentin had, but he was not a confident kid. A lot of kids are in awe of our success here. They look at what we've accomplished. Most people here, a lot of people take us for granted, but there's a lot of people outside of Houston think we're pretty good.
What have you seen with TCU?
First of all, they got a really, really good coach. Just like Coach Young from BYU. He's a really good coach, I think. Jamie is a veteran, man. Those teams he had at Pittsburgh, teams he has now. I think they're 23rd in the country in transition defense. They're a little bit like Oklahoma State that way. I felt like for us to beat Oklahoma State, we had to stop them in transition. Don't let them get to their spot and then play from there. As long as we could make it a half-court game, I thought we had a chance. I think TCU is very similar. TCU might be more skilled. The Reynolds kid, the Elect kid, Winslow kid off the bench. And I'll tell you about Uday, the big kid. There's not a 5-man in America plays harder than Uday. He's 7 foot. He's got, I think he's got 15 steals on the years. You guys may want to check me on that. And he's got 10 or 11 in his last 5 games. But that's because he plays so hard. You know, he's a tough kid. And Jamie has always done well with developing big guys. But he always has good guards. You know, and it's a Big 12 game. You know, you see all the lightning that happens. UCF winning at Texas Tech. West Virginia winning at Kansas. You know, you want to make sure you're ready to play the right way. But we have a lot of respect for, I have a lot of respect for Jamie and the teams that he puts out there. You know, it's easy to say you should have won, but sometimes you say that and it's a sign of disrespect to the team that beats you. Just give them their credit. I mean, we lost to TCU last year. You know, it's a game we felt like we, instead of saying should have, probably could have won, but they beat us. You know, and that's a very prideful program. So, you know, we played them twice last year, and I think our kids understand, and this is where having older guys matter. I think this is a maturity game. This is where your veterans and your leaders. These are games you would worry about your freshmen, you know, because, you know, we're playing in front of, you know, Saturday afternoons are different than Monday nights, you know, especially for young guys. But for older guys, you know, that's been through the wars, they've been, you know, our guys have played enough Monday nights. We played enough Saturday afternoons to know how to bounce back.
Is JoJo avoiding some of that foul trouble? Is that a fine line because you don't want to curb his aggressiveness?
Well, the way Javier's playing, it alleviates some of the problem. You know, it's taken Javier a while to catch up. You know, I remember when we started working out in June, JoJo wasn't there. JoJo didn't start practicing with us really until September. He started doing some things in August, but as far as playing with the team, I didn't see JoJo until September. But Javier was awesome. I mean, he had an awesome summer, awesome fall, and it was such a tough break for him because those growing things are tricky. And when it's not like you can go tape it, you know, or you can take some pills, or it's just gotta, you know, it takes a long time to heal. He tried to come back one time a little too soon because he wanted to, but the way he's playing now, his thing is always going to be consistency. You know, I remember we won last year at UCF. He was awful the first half, but he was great the second half. You know, but that's been a little bit of his MO. When he's good, he's good. When he's not, he's not. You know, the consistency is what you want to see. There's some things that you can't control, but I go back to your attitude and effort. You know, as long as your attitude and effort kind of goes with defend, rebound, take care of the ball. If you defend, rebound, take care of the ball, you're going to be in every game you play. I don't care who it is or where it is. You'll be in every game. If you make enough shots, you're probably going to win.
Good. Okay,
Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Waffle House.